I'm just gonna... I think we're gonna end this one early. I think we're good. There's nothing else to talk about.
There's... Patrick?
Yeah?
Patrick, there's nothing you want to talk about? Not one single thing from today that you maybe want to mention?
Okay, so...
Come on and visit for any occasion. So keep patting Dal waiting, comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
This is going to be more of an interesting podcast than most for you, Dal.
For me, Patrick.
Because you haven't heard any of this.
I haven't.
These are all new things for you because you've been out for... What, 9 days now?
From work?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Four days of work,
well,
but
since
on either side of that.
Since the last time
Yeah.
you've worked, it's been 9 days.
Yeah, 9 or 10 days, something like that.
Yeah,
No,
it's 9. It'll be 10
9.
tomorrow.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
Because this was a trial run for your vacation at the end of the year.
It ended up becoming that, yes.
Yeah. Only, I think on your vacation you won't have the ability to do as much work from home as you did this time.
Yeah, we'll see. I doubt it. I really doubt it. I'll have my iPad, and I'll have, like...
And that's all you need.
A phone connection.
You big
so
brain?
I can... Yeah, I mean, I've done stuff in the store on my iPad before, so there's no sense I can't do it on a train or in a hotel room or wherever.
Or a plane, or an automobile even.
Well, I'm not going to be in one of those things for sure.
A boat. That wasn't one of the things.
No. I mean, I probably will be on a boat at some point.
Oh.
I'm certain of it. I'll be in Florida.
Okay. Well, that's, months away.
It's true.
Who knows if we'll even be alive or have a store by
2
then.
months away.
That's plural.
It is.
It's 2. That's, yeah.
Like basically 2 months from now, I will be...
All right, rub it in, mister. I'm going to take 10 days
on
off.
holiday.
Whenever I want.
On holiday.
How many days did I take off?
2.
2. And how bad did I feel about it?
Not bad.
Pretty bad.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Well,
I tried to answer a bunch of emails and stuff.
oh, okay. I mean,
Because I know...
I did some stuff from home.
I know what it's like to leave other people behind having to do work.
Yeah, I dislike it. I definitely felt... guilty is, I mean, kind of a broad term, but I felt like I was inconveniencing everyone by not being around for as many days as I was.
I mean, look, were we inconvenienced? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Was it your fault? No.
No, and obviously, like, I wish
Does
that
anybody
I hadn't
blame
gotten
you?
ill.
Only half of us.
Which is fine. I mean, valid. I appreciate everybody who picked up my slack.
That bottle of water request, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, you didn't like it.
Like,
I know.
man.
I know.
Well, because I've wanted to bring some Huel home every day this week, and I can't, because there was always something else to carry.
I get it.
And then you hit me with the bottle of water thing.
Yeah,
and
I'm sorry.
But I know you needed it.
I did.
And I didn't say anything
I appreciate that.
until right now.
I could tell you were upset by it.
Yeah, because I didn't answer you.
Yeah, that's usually a good sign.
Yeah.
When you do something but then don't respond, it's like, oh, okay, all right.
Hey, man, you asked, I did it.
You did. I have not complained.
Nope. So, I'm going to.
Okay.
One of the things I hate most in the world is having to deal with AT&T.
Yeah, God, they're the worst.
So, an hour of my day today, dealing with AT&T.
What went wrong?
Nothing went wrong. It's just, if you recall, our phone for a while now has said, we've got a message.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And we don't have a message.
No.
We do, Dal. We do have a message. You know why?
Why?
It's a voicemail message, not a recording message.
Weird.
We have voicemail and didn't know it. Once we got upgraded to fiber, we now have voicemail.
Oh.
How do people get to the voicemail and not the machine? I don't know.
Oh, that sucks.
How do we get to our voicemail?
Because we've gotten answering machine messages.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think.
We do all the time.
Yeah.
How do we get to our voicemail?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Oh, sure. You just start like *98 and then type in your 3-digit code. We don't have a code.
Yeah, no one gave us that.
So my thing was, we need a code.
Yeah.
Now first,
Or just turn it off.
I needed to deal with Total Connect, who does the app for our alarm company. And I'll get to that story a little bit later. And that didn't go as planned either. But then I'm like, I gotta do this AT&T thing. Well over an hour on the phone. And look, all I need is a 3-digit code.
Right.
You can't just get a 3-digit code.
No.
You have to, and this is after a very long time on. I was on hold for over 30 minutes, and then it was over 30 minutes with different people.
Yeah.
The first person, and
As always, whoever you're talking to at AT&T is not the person who can help you.
first, full disclosure, I looked up online first. I'm like, how do I get a PIN number for a thing? They're like, oh, you do this. If you can't do it, call this number. None of those descriptions on the internet said this is a number you call for a wireless phone. The woman I was dealing with, and I'm just going to say right now that everybody that I dealt with today had a very thick accent.
Yep.
They were from a call center.
Yep.
The first one was fine. The second one was very quiet. And when they're reading off things and saying, like, D like donut, or what? I couldn't tell. I'm like, are you saying C or D? And she said, D like donut. She wasn't saying that. It was actually T. And it wasn't donut, but I forgot what it was.
Okay.
But at that point of the conversation, there was a customer who was at the counter who wasn't talking super loud, but they just had a voice that just penetrates through things.
Sure.
And I had to keep running into the back hall to be able to say, I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said? And then it's like, okay, now do this on the computer. So I had to go back into the computer. Then I can't hear her again.
Right.
And it was incredibly frustrating. But for the first woman, it was the wrong person. She finally, I figured out why I can't find your account. You're not a wireless customer. We're a wireless branch. Let me send you where you have to be. Fine. So they made me set up an AT&T.com email address or whatever, .net or whatever.
Another thing we don't want.
Exactly. Exactly. By the end of it, I was so frustrated. Also, because of the way the day worked, when I started the phone call, we were empty.
Right.
The store got busy, and that is when Open Books came to pick up the donation.
Oh, man.
So,
Man.
I mean, I had the heads-up idea earlier in the day to be like, hey, let's
Bring all that out.
Well, let's put it... No, because if we brought it into the store, they would never show up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm like, let's move it in the garage so we can tell them, just pull in the alley, it's all right there.
Yeah, there you go.
So, literally, Gina was in the back moving the boxes to the garage when Open Books showed up. And I'm on the phone, and the woman comes in with her Open Books t-shirt and her dolly. I'm like, hey, where's your vehicle? She's like, it's in the alley. I'm like, perfect. I'm going to go open the garage. That's where everything is.
Right.
So, Gina had to do all the box lifting and that by herself.
Yikes.
Which I hate having to do, but I couldn't.
You couldn't hand that
I
off.
can't be like, you need to talk to this, like,
Right.
You do the rest of this.
Right.
So I eventually got so frustrated that I just hung up after over an hour of wasting my time.
Oh, yeah.
And then
I've been there.
She emailed me what you should do, but in the meantime, I was looking up through our account anyway, and on our account, if you go to the phone usage, there's a whole thing like, set up your voicemail, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Two things happen, and I angrily showed Gina both of these after the fact. The link that says, set up your PIN number, you click it, and it just goes to that cannot connect screen.
Great.
The one that says, change your PIN, you go to that, and it says, account owner, you're not authorized, account owner has to sign in and do this. I am the account owner.
Yeah.
It's my email address that we log in with.
Oh, my God.
So frustrating, and Gina, who knows me so well at this point, knows how, you personally know what I've done so far today. That was the most frustrating part of my day.
Wow.
That's how bad it
AT&T
is.
is that bad.
Yeah.
They're really that bad.
My God. But I don't want to, I can't even crack my neck. I'm so,
You're so loose because you're so tension-free now. You told that story.
Dealing with it's always miserable, and it never gets any better. And
no.
How
Every
hard
interaction
is it
with them is just terrible.
to say, hey, you need a PIN number. I don't care. Assign me one. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Just...
It's like a 3 or 4 digit number.
It's a 3-digit number.
Pick
just
3 numbers and say, this is it.
No,
Great.
okay, well, then first they gave me this gibberish email address to sign in with, and it's all like L, Q, lowercase m, underscore,
percentage sign.
Yeah, it's like, come on. And as I'm trying on the screen, each time it gives you...
There aren't nuclear codes that we're trying to get to. It's just the store's voicemail that we didn't
Remind
want.
me the name of the jumbled things you gotta... CAPTCHA?
CAPTCHA.
Okay. So their CAPTCHAs are uppercase, lowercase, and symbols. fuck you guys for doing that.
Very difficult to discern those.
Yeah.
When they're all jumbled up.
Mm-hmm. Or there's a little background.
Yeah.
And the things that the woman on the phone was making me do, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, and I can't even get to the things you're telling me to do. So that did not get resolved.
Great.
But if you go onto our account, it says one voicemail. Click that link. Cannot connect.
Also, like, it's bizarre because I've been in the store when the phone rings to the point where the answering machine will go off and the answering machine goes off.
So here's what made me realize it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I just never noticed this or haven't picked up the phone to make a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
But when you turn on the phone, it goes...
I have heard that as well.
Yeah, that is you have a voicemail symbol.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm like, oh my god, we actually have a voicemail.
As someone who A, has not had a landline in his home in well over a decade.
Well over a solid 11 years, easily.
And certainly when I did have one, did not have voicemail attached to it.
Yeah.
I would have never known what that noise was. I was just like, I don't know. I guess this is just some AT&T. They're working on the lines or something. I don't know. So
my first thought was that this is a voicemail that somebody left when we were switching over the lines.
Maybe.
But no, it hasn't been there for that long. It's only a recent thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, and it's going to be the most frustrating thing to find out that this is true, that it is basically just an AT&T voicemail message saying, like, thank you for setting up your AT&T voicemail.
No doubt, it's going to be about
I'm
a car
throw the
warranty.
phone into the street when that happens.
I was after I just hung up because I had to ring up Mike Pecora, and my hand hovered over the trash. I'm like, no, it's not the phone's fault.
No,
do not angrily throw the phone away.
Yeah, don't throw away the messenger.
But in years past, I would have hurled that phone across the store. I'm like, no, it's not the phone's fault. Put it down. But I was using the store phone because I didn't because our account's tied to it, so they can say, oh, it's this one.
Right.
And every time, like, oh, do you have a number that we can call back if the call gets disconnected? Yes, this number here. Okay, do you have a cell? No, I'm not giving you my cell number. Just take this.
Don't call me on my cell. Call me on this number.
Yeah.
The end.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So that was an annoying mid part of the day.
I'm sure. It sounds miserable.
Also, an annoyance was the 4th of July.
Yeah, true.
It was a Sunday.
Yep.
This past Sunday. You all know it. You listening. You lived through it. It is 100% guaranteed. If you're listening to this podcast, you lived through that 4th of July.
It's like the American version of Bastille Day to give people some context, right?
Yeah, sure. I was going to make a V for Vendetta joke, but I'm not. A Guy Fawkes Day joke, but I'm not going to. Although I think if you want to make a really good case for UK independence, it would be yesterday with the resignation of Boris Johnson.
I mean, they've gotten rid of dumb prime ministers before.
Yeah, but I mean...
They'll have more dumb prime ministers in the future.
This is the most socially, politically aware thing that he did his entire career. Anyway.
And he avoided it for months.
And just earlier this week was talking about seeking re-election. Anyway, 4th of July, fireworks go off, happens a lot. It's around, I don't know, 10 or 10:30. I get a call on my phone. I'm like, this is an important call. It's late in the evening. Answer it. Alarm company. All 3 window sensors have went off. I'm like, okay, so that's not a real thing. Like, no one broke in through 3 windows simultaneously. So I quickly pull up the camera.
What if it was a group of triplet robbers?
Yeah, maybe.
That new Three-Face that we've been hearing about.
Oh, man. We dodged a bullet there.
Did.
Well, we have 12 windows. They probably confused them. Like, which 3?
Oh, man.
3 next to each other? No, because they can't, because it was each of the sections.
Yeah.
So I pull up the camera, see that nothing is broken, hear the alarms going off. I'm like, don't send the police. I'll just turn it off from here.
Because that costs money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it only costs money if
no one's broken in.
Right. So I pull up the alarm app, and I can't log in. It won't let me log in. So I'm like, well, shit, I have to go to the store. So I go to the store, go in, turn the alarm off, and while I'm there, I'm like, well, I'll do a thing or two since I'm here. You know, some things that need to be done. A couple of orders came in the middle of the night like they always do now.
They always do now.
And while I'm there, my phone rings again. I'm like, okay, let's see who this is. It's later in the evening. And it's the Chicago police. spoiler alert, there'll be more Chicago police stories later in this podcast. Or will there? No, probably not.
Probably not.
Anyway.
Am I getting arrested on this? Is that
it's the Chicago police saying, yeah, we're looking for Patrick Brower. I'm like, this is? Your number is tied to the building at 1845 Northwestern. I'm like, yeah, okay. They're like, yeah, there's an incident there. I'm like, no, it's fine. It was probably just fireworks that set off the window sensors. And they're like, no, there's a window shattered. I'm like, no, there isn't. Like, yeah, a window got shattered. I'm like, no, I'm inside the building right now. There's nothing shattered. And they said, wait, you're in the building? Yeah, I'm inside my store right now. Where are you? I'm like, you know what? I'm coming outside. So I go outside, and sure enough, there's a squad car and 2 officers who are out, and they're looking at the shattered double window of Black River Barbershop.
Yep, our next door neighbor.
Our direct next door neighbor. And something broke all of our windows and their windows, and all the windows for the bottom level of the building are double paned. But not like, there's a pane of glass and then a 1/4 inch and a pane of glass. Mm-hmm. Something completely shattered one double pane, both panes.
Wow.
And like a spider web from the middle all the way out, and shattered it into A, tiny little pieces, and B, thin 3-inch shards.
Oof.
Like the kind of icicles that Killer Frost would shoot at you.
Oh no.
And I'm like, wait a minute, all of this is on the outside. Cop's like, no, look inside as well. I'm like, oh, it's that way because there's a window for each side.
Yeah, one fell in, one fell out.
So, something shattered their window. Nobody went in. Nothing was moved. They're our neighbors. I'm in their store often.
Right.
No one broke in. No one climbed in. And they're like, can you contact the owners because we don't have any information? Mm. Like, fine. So, I call Nick. He doesn't answer. I leave a voicemail. And then a cop's like, hey, why don't you text him as well in case he's one of those people that doesn't look at his phone or doesn't look at calls.
Listen to voicemail messages, yeah.
Most people in the world.
Yeah.
Sure. Text him, nothing. Nina, I only have her email. Uh-huh. So I email her. I'm like, hey, give me a call. So I'm like, hey, cops, I'm going to stick around until somebody gets back to me.
Sure.
Best part of the whole story, while I'm standing there with the police in front of this broken window, it's an active Sunday night. People are still coming and going
4th of July.
From the train. Yeah. So a woman
it's an active Sunday night.
walks by, looks at the broken window, looks at the cops, and says, "You guys got to stop breaking people's windows."
That's a good line.
And if I would have high-fived her if I could, it was the best part of the evening. You guys got to stop breaking people's windows. So then Nina calls and she's like, "Hey, I'm sending my dad out to board it up." So I'm like, all right, I'll stick around until he gets here so I can say to the cops, no, he's okay. This is whatever.
He's authorized to be there.
Yeah. So I'm inside filling orders, doing some. I'm always working.
Always working.
And then I hear a little bit of activity. I look out and the cops are gone, but Nick is there. And so Nick had actually gotten someone got a hold of him, so he showed up.
Great.
And I spent the next hour or so helping them clean up and do stuff.
Aww.
And we're neighbors. That's what you do.
I wouldn't.
Well, it was a good thing I was there because
have a good
night. They needed to borrow a whole bunch of tools.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That when I went back to get on
Tuesday? Monday.
No, I was
you stopped by Monday, I think.
I stopped by. I was there. I was already there Sunday once.
Right.
So yeah, it had to be Monday. I guess.
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday.
You know what? You had stopped by.
This day is a blur.
Late on Monday to do something, and I can't remember what it was, but I remember you did specifically stop by. You needed to get something, or
Sunday
had been dropped off.
Sunday, I dropped off the new charge reader.
Monday, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
anyway.
don't know.
Anyway.
Jesus, it was late every day this week?
Probably. I wasn't.
What did I do? Okay, it doesn't matter. So I went into under the guise of like, hey, how's everything going? But just to get my tools back.
Of course.
Which I didn't need to do because they were all in the back hallway.
Yeah.
But neither Nick nor Nina was there at that point. And the glass shatter got everywhere into every corner. At this
that
point,
is rough.
They're like, I said, hey, maybe tell Emma not to bring Oliver in for a while.
Ooh, yeah.
like even their clothes basket with all
just weird slivers and shards. Who knows?
Yeah. And they were talking about hiring like a professional cleaning service to come in. But I'll tell you, when I was there that afternoon, everything looked great.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem isn't what you can see, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so that was a later than expected night.
I'm sure.
But yeah, they had to borrow my tools, and I gave them our board up company, our glass company, our door and lock company. Just to, they didn't need the board up because it was actually the same boards they used. They said justice for George Floyd, but they turned them the opposite way.
Sure.
So that was the start of the week.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember how things go, but I guess I'll tell this story. My stories aren't taking as long as I thought they would.
I'm sorry, Patrick.
We had a JENNY FRISON signing on Wednesday.
Yeah, how'd that go?
And, I think you know. I'm sure you were looking at numbers roll in.
I was not.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
you should have been.
I looked at some numbers rolling in, and then I was like, I don't need to keep looking.
The first 2 hours of the day were the most chaotic hours we've had in...
Molly Jane had mentioned that in an email later in the day.
Quite a while.
Yes.
A lot of people came out, though. We sold a good amount of the books.
That's great.
We need to have a talk about how the books are being shipped.
Okay.
But that'll be later.
Yeah, I mean, my plan is to, now that we have them on site, I want to get my hands on them on Sunday and see if we can figure out...
Yeah, so I mailed one out to Danny.
Uh-huh.
And what I had done was I did 2 cardboard flats, non-cut down.
Okay.
That are slightly, like you put them on top of the cover, tape them together.
Uh-huh.
Then I taped a third one across for support.
Okay. For
top and bottom.
Okay.
But that's 6 flats per book.
Yeah, I don't know that I would use that many.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to.
I don't know.
Like, I think in general, and I want to actually pack one up and then see what it feels like. I think in general you can get away with... It is shrink wrap to start with, and it's not anymore because it's been
we had to
signed.
cut them all up and get them signed.
But I mean, you can put it in just like a couple of plastic bags just to keep the elements away from it, and then you put it
real close to the edges of the.
But that's because it's in a bag. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, I wasn't. I'm not worried about that so much as I was worried about. Like, I don't think it needs the bags per se.
I think it does.
But I think it needs some more stability than just itself.
See, I tried a different DC poster portfolio inside an unbuilt Priority Mail box, and I think in general, like it has enough rigidity to it because of its size and because of the format of the paper.
Okay. That
I don't think it needs additional layers of stuff. Mostly because those additional layers cost money to ship.
Right. Well, because we didn't have a chance to have this conversation in person.
Right.
Over the book itself,
yeah.
I set it to just in store for the time being.
Okay.
That's why you've noticed nobody's bought any.
I haven't noticed that specifically because I never know what people are going to want to buy online.
But I mean, I don't.
But yeah, I mean, I
don't know if you look at when a transaction email comes in, you look like, oh, let's see.
But I don't necessarily assume that like I'm not seeing transactions come in because it's been turned off. I just think no one's buying it yet.
Right.
Whatever.
I assume people would have bought it immediately.
Sure. Yeah, we haven't gotten any requests about it, so I don't know.
You haven't gotten any requests about it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You're not on Instagram.
I'm not. It's true. Yeah, I definitely think we can... I'll take a run at it on Sunday, but I think we can probably switch that back on Sunday, and I think we can do it for the regular shipping rates.
One of the reasons I didn't want it switched on was I did not know what time I'd be getting in today.
Yeah, it's fine.
And I did not want to I already had a stack of orders to deal with.
Yeah. I don't mind turning it back on Sunday, and then we can just deal with it then.
Fine.
And Molly J knows how to work the Instagram, so she can definitely tell people, hey, by the way, it's available for purchase. Here's the link.
So JENNY FRISON signing.
I'm familiar with her work.
True delight. Just a wonderful human being. So happy to see her.
And the owner of a really cool dog.
Meh.
I think we put that in an email. That's why I said that.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure when I was constructing that I wasn't saying that she was a cool person who owns a dog.
She was the owner.
She was the owner of a cool dog. Yeah. Because you say like cool dog owner, and it's like, well, but she's both. She's a cool dog owner, and she owns a cool dog.
Yeah, but I think she would tell you first and foremost that she's the owner of a cool dog.
Yeah, that's why I led with that. But I did say acclaimed cover artist before I said owner of a cool dog.
She's acclaimed.
Anyway.
I can't say. I did not want to say what we were doing.
You didn't want to shout out Anthony Bowen's catchphrase?
Exactly. Yes. But we know we did it.
We do. I do love the Acclaimed.
I feel so left out. I have no idea what happened on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah?
Do you?
Are we watching all of Dynamite and Rampage after this?
No.
Okay.
Maybe Dynamite.
Okay.
Rampage will have to wait.
Okay.
Unless you watched it already. You son of a bitch.
Have I watched Rampage yet?
No, Dynamite. Have you watched Dynamite?
I have not.
I believe you.
Okay. Do you want me to?
No. That's what I waited. I waited for you.
All I've watched is Dark and Elevation.
Okay.
Because you had said ahead of time you were going to be watching those. So I just
Yeah,
said,
I didn't. You know what I did Tuesday night? I worked.
You worked.
All fucking night when I got home.
Yeah, you didn't miss much. Elevation
And
was impossible to watch because it was, I think, just Paul White and Tony Schiavone.
Okay.
And that's the worst configuration because there was a point where GPA was wrestling. And Tony Schiavone goes, you know, Mark, I had a pretty good GPA when I was in high school. You know what Mark Henry said? Huh. All right, man. This is some good improv. We're doing some good work here.
All right, fine. Let's not talk about wrestling.
But Elevation was really good because there is an ongoing thing about Taz and Excalibur creating a new mascot for Bear Country that just they run through it the entire episode. They keep calling back on it. That's great. Anyway.
I'm not going to go back.
No, why would you go back and watch Dark or Elevation? But Dark specifically was really funny.
Gina was amazed today to learn that I don't watch any TV aside from wrestling, except when I'm working out.
If they did a AEW Plus or whatever, that had live and on-demand episodes of Dynamite and Rampage, I would get rid of YouTube TV for the most part. I mean,
no, but my point is, I don't watch anything else unless I'm working out.
Yeah,
like you have Kamen Rider.
I do, and Better Call Saul's coming back on.
Yeah,
and I will usually do like the other Disney Plus shows. You'll also watch the Disney.
Yeah,
Plus
that's
shows.
Fair. That's fair.
But I mean, TV, like broadcast TV, you don't watch anything.
But also, like, I don't know, whatever else that people are watching right now, I'm not doing it. Well, Stranger Things is one of them.
It's a lot of Stranger Things to watch. But like, I know what you mean as far as like network TV and stuff. Like, I haven't watched anything on like a non-sports event thing. ABC, CBS, NBC, CW. In a year or more. I have no idea. A long time. Anyway.
So Jenny Frison signing. A lot of people came out.
Acclaimed artist.
There was a person in the store who, when I tell you their name off this, you're going to just be like, that son of a... They were on their cell phone. Can you tell me how they were on their cell phone? Speakerphone.
Great.
Arguing loudly with someone on the phone.
Okay.
And we had the checkout line.
This was like a customer?
Yeah.
Okay.
A former club member.
Okay.
That did not leave under their terms. The checkout line went down to the end of the store and around.
Oof.
Right? So they're not in line. They're just standing back there, but they're very loud. And so from the register, I screamed, "Stop yelling." But I didn't, I bellowed it.
Great.
Like, people shook.
That's great.
Afterwards, I was told that I didn't know that people could get that loud. So, a few minutes later, they're being loud again. So I walk up to this person directly in their face as they're holding their phone out, and I say, "Turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off," until they turned speakerphone off. And then I said very loudly, "You're in public. Use some common sense."
Wow.
When I walked back to the front, 2 different people thanked me for doing that.
Sure.
And that made me realize, oh, this person was bugging a lot of people.
Yeah.
They also then said to me, like, oh, they were holding up like a Jenny cover. Like, I think we put out the Gail Simone Red Sonja reprint because it came out this week and it had Jenny's cover. I'm like, oh, we'll put this out as well.
Sure.
We didn't get it for the signing, but like, let's have it.
Why not? Why not spotlight it?
It's gone now.
Yeah.
And they held this up and said, "Do you like? I'm new to this. Do you know what other books are heard? Like, you're not new to this, and no, we're focusing on the poster book. That's all we're pointing out. That's all we're concentrating on for this signing." And I walked away. And apparently, he went up to every single other person that had a Jenny Frison book and said, "Where'd you get that?
Oh my god.
Where'd you get that?"
From home, probably.
Yeah.
She has fans. They brought their own stuff, man.
And she told me afterwards that her encounter with him wasn't pleasant, and that I felt horrible that I was not watching out for her at that point.
Of
But
course.
we were so busy, I
Yeah,
couldn't.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, it was frustrating to have to tell a grown man that they're being horribly inappropriate in public.
Yeah.
Yelling, like, just shouting into a phone at somebody. I keep pausing when I want to say yelling or shouting because I'm the one who was the loudest. Never forget that.
You needed to be heard.
Yeah. Felt good, though, too, because
Sure.
I don't usually...
You don't get to use your outdoor voice like that.
Yeah, that's true. It's been a very long time since my outdoor voice came out.
That's good, man.
It was just so disappointing.
Yeah, you never want to have interactions like that. Even if you can solve them in a way that feels cathartic, like, there's still... I don't relish the idea of having that experience be anyone's experience in the store. Witnessing that, you know?
So, I have vertigo, and it comes and goes, but when it comes, it sticks around for a little while.
Yeah.
And sometimes it lays me out for a day or whatever.
Right.
And it flared up last Friday morning. So it's been sticking around for a little bit, right? And we were all wearing masks in the store, A, because of you,
Yes.
B,
One more inconvenience.
B, for Jenny's sake, right?
Of course.
And I had put my mask in my vest pocket like I do every morning.
Uh-huh.
Only last second, I changed vests and forgot.
Whoops.
So I get to the store, I'm like, I don't have a mask. So I'm like, don't worry, we have N95s in the back, right?
Right.
So I grab one of the N95s and throw that on, and I'm not used to wearing an N95 for extended periods of time.
No.
It's a little bit tougher to breathe through.
Yeah. And by design, yeah.
But also, like, there was a point when Jenny was talking to me, and I got so lightheaded. I'm like,
Wow.
I'm literally going to pass out right now.
Wow.
Like, I'm going to, like, I could just, like, first of all, like, this whole morning I was sweating profusely.
Sure.
And every day I'm worried, like, oh no, that got me sick. But also, I
A
sleep
reasonable fear.
directly under an air conditioning vent, so
Yeah.
every day I wake up, my throat's scratchy anyway.
Yeah, always.
But I definitely wasn't sick.
Great.
But I just got so lightheaded, I'm like, oh man. And this was like the signing was over, I was winding down, and she just wanted to have a chat and catch up. And I could not participate. I let her talk, and then I'm like, okay, well, thanks for coming.
Well, I mean, now that the signing's done and Steve's thing wrapped up, you guys can have lunch at some point.
Yeah, next month.
Yeah, there you go.
After
August.
C2E2. Yeah.
Very excited about August.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean...
I don't want to say very excited like it's a constant thing I'm thinking about, but it definitely is a thing of like, yep.
Oh, it is for me.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very hungry.
There was a woman I was reading an article from on Defector, and she had massive jaw surgery.
Is it because she had a massive jaw?
No, basically, I'll give you the short version. Her jaw had some sort of...
The short version was massive jaw surgery.
Very weird thing to it, like some very rare disease.
Opposing mandibles.
No, the jaw was basically eating itself.
Ugh.
Yeah, so over years, her lower jaw was just shifting further and further back, and it was like, we can fix this, but like, A, we have to wait for the jaw to finish eating itself,
Ugh.
or when we fix it, it's just going to eat itself again. And then B, like, it's massive jaw surgery. But anyway, like, there's a lot she had to do in advance of that, and then once it happens, it's like, your jaw is moved forward like an inch. So, like, your teeth don't line up right. They had to rebuild a whole bunch of stuff. You can't actually eat physical food for a while because you can't even close your mouth. So she had, finally, what she had put on her calendar as eating week. Where it was like, she could finally start having, like, chewing actual food. Like,
Yeah.
she was at that level.
Yeah.
And it's this thing of, like, her fantasy was like, oh my God, I'm going to have, like, a Chicago dog and I'm going to have all this stuff. And her Chicago dog story was, like, basically taking the hot dog out of the bun and peeling the casing out of off of the
Yeah,
dog.
sure. We've all done it.
Even that bit she couldn't do. Like, that was kind of beyond her. And I'm sort of thinking about the idea of, like, wow, what is August going to be like? For those, I'm just going to mention this. I'll throw it out there. Patrick and I had a year or so ago started doing Huel, which is a human fuel.
I mean, to be fair, Patrick started it back in 2018.
You used it briefly. You did, like, the powder and the
For a
shake,
couple
and
months,
you
yeah.
hated it.
No, I didn't hate it. It just gave me kidney stones.
That's true. And you hated it. I started doing the ready-to-drink bottles just as, like, a supplement to do...
It's complete nutritional food.
It's not like... I don't mean it like a meal supplement. I mean, like...
Huel is not a sponsor of this podcast.
Yet. Supplementing, like, horrible meals with something more nutritious and...
I will say that Dal eats worse than any person I've ever met.
It's true.
And I'm talking about toddlers.
Yeah. So we've both integrated Huel a little bit more into our diets, less than we maybe should have. And I had mentioned on a car ride at one point that I was thinking about at some point in the future, some month of just nothing but Huel, just to see if it could be done. Because it can be. It is nutritionally complete food. It has vitamins, it has protein, it has all the stuff you need to live on it.
Yeah.
And everything is clearly delineated on the back of the bottle.
It's just boring as shit.
Yeah, it's just boring as shit. It's just a bottle. It's a 400-calorie bottle of
It's a milkshake.
Food.
It's basically like a protein shake.
Yeah, basically.
But also with everything else.
And so I said this out loud, which was stupid, because Patrick immediately went, we should do that. And then there was no turning back. It was like, oh, I guess we're doing this. And we decided July would be the solid month to do that. Patrick had a trip he was taking in June, and we had C2E2 in August, and we wanted a month where we could just concentrate on
nothing.
Just basically not going out. Like creating an environment where we weren't going out to dinners and things with people, where we could just, control our food intake via Huel. We are currently 8 days in, and it is very weird. It is incredibly weird, and both of us are thinking very thoroughly about what we're going to be eating in August.
All I know is whatever it is going to be a disappointment.
I wonder how much...
Like, I walk around and I smell people grilling hot dogs. I'm like, the smell of a grilled hot dog is one of the greatest smells there is.
It's really great.
The taste of a grilled hot dog never matches that smell. It's never that good.
Yeah, the theater of the mind is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely things I saw...
Tell we're not eating food at theaters.
Qdoba? Is that how you say it? Qdoba? It's like a Qdoba. It's like a Mexican joint that's like Chipotle. Qdoba. I've never been there because I have Chipotle in my life. I don't need...
I thought you were going to be talking about Kubo or something.
No,
but yeah.
But Qdoba apparently has a new, very cheesy special menu, and it was just like, oh, I want to try that. I can't for 3 weeks.
I also like that after a month of eating healthy, you're going to start with the unhealthiest thing you can get your hands on.
I'm immediately going to dive back in. I think I'll probably end up doing more Huel because of this.
Yeah.
Because once you start doing 3 and 4 servings of it a day for enough days, I don't want to say become second nature, but it becomes a lot easier to make that decision of I'm just going to have this bottle that I know is healthy.
It does save you more time
than trying to place an online order for food and waiting an hour for it to show up, and then all the garbage, and then how you feel afterwards. This is just I'm literally just going to go drink this right now in 5 minutes,
and we're saving money.
And then it was not saving money last month when we each ordered a month's worth of Huel
in advance.
But so, it's been pretty cheap this month.
It's obviously... there's no point in saying, how do you feel? Because you've been sick this whole time.
Yeah.
You don't know how you feel.
I mean, you do and you don't. There were things... I had mentioned to you that this was not terribly difficult for me to do as a lifestyle change, because I mostly have been eating way worse and way more the last couple years of the pandemic.
You really have been.
And so it's mostly just trying to get back into, not habits necessarily, but bad life decisions before that, where I would just not end up eating a lot of food. So switching to something that is not there's no reward to eating Huel. Do you know what I mean? You're not treating yourself in any way.
No, the reward is your body is healthier and it'll thank you.
The after effect is great. It's nice to finish something and not feel like your body is basically trying to crawl its way out of its own grave. You want something
from the stomach out.
Yeah, you want something where you drink it and you're like, oh, I am nourished now, and in a few hours I'll have more nourishment because I know how to balance that out and control the amount I'm taking in, as opposed to ordering a bunch of food from, DoorDash or something, and it shows up and you eat it, and then you're like, I have no idea what even that was. I don't calorie count.
Once again, I would like to point out this podcast is not sponsored by Huel.
Can be though. If we survive this month, it can be. But anyway, so that's been...
Why did this come up?
You had mentioned that you couldn't do lunch with Jenny until August.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I wanted to give some context why Patrick was arbitrarily, seemingly, saying that he could not, under any circumstances.
I can do lunch with Jenny whenever I want. It's my choice to hold off.
Right.
Jenny and I get meals frequently throughout the year.
It's true.
This is just a point where...
I'm just saying, you'd originally scheduled one for June...
and it got postponed.
Right, but you have to postpone it out to August because of
not only to August,
a different decision
until after C2E2.
It's true.
So there's all that.
Yeah, it's a busy week that week.
Speaking of busy weeks, Dal, this week has been exhausting.
I've heard.
I think that there's nothing left to talk about, really.
You caught me up.
I'm just gonna... I think we're gonna end this one early. I think we're good. There's nothing else to talk about.
There's... Patrick?
Yeah?
Patrick, there's nothing you want to talk about? Not one single thing from today that you maybe want to mention?
Okay, so... I got my comics back, but we'll talk about that later. Thanks for listening.
Nope.
What?
Nope. You got your comics back?
Okay.
Patrick, do you want to tell us a little story, maybe?
Clearly I didn't. I was trying to sign off.
Did you find them in the gutter? Were they attached to your car roof with a note saying, "Our bad, yo"?
With Dal unavailable to do pretty much goddamn anything this week.
Basically anything of any help whatsoever.
I'm doing everything.
Everything.
In the store, out of the store.
Although, real quick aside, thanks to Molly Jane.
Yeah.
She really stepped up this
week.
Yeah,
no, Molly Jane was great this week. She worked...
I have now zero fears about leaving in September for 4 work
You should,
days.
because I'm leaving those days too.
Again, zero fear.
Also, Andrew filled in
Thank you, Andrew.
This whole week.
It's short notice, too.
Oh, well, I mean, I was just going to say he filled in. I wasn't going to give him any credit for it.
Well, I mean, I do want to mention, like, Molly Jane was working days. She was already working. She didn't know I would not be there.
Yeah.
Andrew came in.
Sure.
Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Although, now that I need him the most, he's out.
What a dope.
I know, right?
Back on the shit list.
2 things say, I'm like, hey, can you do this day, this day? No.
Used it all up on Dal.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Patrick, you got your books
Molly
back.
Molly Jane was great this week. She was better than I am. She's been better than I am since, like, her 2nd month.
Well, I'm glad that I can come back soon and take some of the weight off of her. Not all of it, some of it. Patrick, you got your books back.
So anyway, yesterday I was running an errand for Dal.
Thanks, Patrick.
Exclusively Dal, not for me. It didn't benefit me in any way.
Mm-hmm.
But I was down in Bronzeville, and I was with someone else, and I got an email from my friend Steve. Steve Davidge, good close personal friend of the store.
Yes. And he did he not give you a gift of a Falcon comic?
Yeah, the first appearance of Falcon, he gave me that.
He knew that you didn't have one, so he
anymore.
Was like, yeah.
So anyway, I got an email from Steve pointing out an upcoming comic book sale this weekend. Mm-hmm. It was on like estatesales.net,
which is a site I'd never heard of before.
Yeah, sure. And it just it just said date, here's the thing, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. So I emailed back real quick because I was in the middle of something, mm-hmm. and I'm like, oh, thanks, maybe I'll go to that, and just sent it off.
Right. Didn't think too hard about it.
No. I'm like, oh, I'm interested. I'll peek. Mm-hmm. Because he'd said like, hey, maybe like this may be some of your stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, maybe. He emailed me back and basically pointed out that the reason he sent me the email was so I could look at all the pictures to see if I recognized anything. And I hadn't seen there were pictures because I didn't scroll down. Uh-huh. I thought the whole email was the whole email.
Was just like the text of like, I got these books. I want to sell them.
Just the event listing.
Yeah.
I've never been to estate sales like that either.
No.
So when I got the chance, I scrolled down and started looking at the pictures, and there's like 20 some odd pictures. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at them like, look, a lot of those look like books that I had, but I can't say, yes, those are my books. Like these were long boxes with books propped in front of each box, and books sticking up.
And the books were, 70s, 80s, 90s, Marvel, DC stuff. Okay.
I was not the only person who had these books. So I'm like, it looks like I don't think I had this Avengers. I don't think I had this signed.
Batman Dark Victory #0.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
Wizard Magazine in 1999.
Yeah, I don't think I had Flash 2 Worlds. So I don't think these are mine. Mm-hmm. So I'm scrolling through, and then I find a picture way toward the bottom.
This is total detective stuff.
And this is just a box, an open half box, sitting on top of a closed half box. Uh-huh. So it's obscuring the majority of the lid.
Right.
However, when I was in college, back in the late 80s, my comic collection with George, those lived elsewhere. I was in DeKalb.
Yeah, most college students don't get to have a bunch of long boxes at college.
But I bought a half box from Northern Lights Bookstore, mm-hmm. and that was what because I couldn't wait until I'd be home. I was buying new books every week.
Right, and then you would take that half box home on holidays or whatever.
Well, I mean, but at the end of my time there, whenever.
Sure, whenever.
So, and like the things I couldn't wait for, I'd double buy. But that's when we got into Hellblazer or Sandman, because I'm like,
sure,
I know I have these books waiting for me at home. I have some money to spend. Let's try these books.
Right.
Stuff like that. It was a very fun experimental period.
I'm sure.
Grimjack is like my all-time favorite comic book character.
That's true.
Up there with Captain America or Hellblazer. But Grimjack operated out of a bar called Munden's in the city of Sinosure.
Mm-hmm.
He lived in the back. He operated out of the back. So I drew the Munden's logo on this box lid, and instead of saying bar, I wrote box.
Munden's box.
So it says Munden's box.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where I kept all my comics from school.
Sure.
And then later I remembered, I'm like, oh, I also had a little press-on pufferfish sticker that I put on the side, and I gave it like a spiny word balloon, and it said, hey, yow, comics. And then there was like a comics are cool, kids, or something sticker that Diamond had done back in the day.
Okay.
And it was
with their cool cat.
It was green and like purple, and I slapped that on the front of the box as well, right? So anyway, I see just the hint of the M and the S from Munden's under that one box. And I'm like, that is my box.
Yeah, like you didn't recognize the comics, you recognized part of a box, which is ideal. Because the comics, anybody.
So
if you can recognize the box, those are yours.
Today I came up with not the greatest, a great way to protect your books, but I kind of don't want to say it because I don't want it to get out there.
I guess people can ask you at the store.
Yeah, ask me at the store.
If they're worth knowing.
I think it's a pretty clever thing to do to protect your books.
Okay.
But anyway, so I'm like, that's mine. And I have a photo of all the boxes that I had in my collection in the storage unit.
Yeah, you took a photo on the old shelves.
Yeah.
Right before to show people, like, hey, this is what the collection used to be like
before
I built these cool new
it's
shelves.
actually the opposite. The collection used to be jam-packed all the way, like, straight down, so I could only get to the first section.
Sure.
And this was a way to show George, like, look, for the first time in over a decade, we have access to the front of every single box.
Yeah.
But the shelves were made for storage, not pulling the boxes in and out.
Right.
So I bought those new shelves and spent all that time building them. So, like, that photo was to show George, look, all of
accessible comics.
And for the first time.
Sure.
So I was able to look at that, and a lot of, like, I haven't changed my boxes ever.
That was the next thing you were probably going to do.
Oh, yeah.
Like
this summer,
Once everything was on those good new shelves, it was then new boxes, inventory, bagging and boarding, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that was the next step. So, like, yeah.
So I'm like, yep, these are my books. And this was yesterday, right? Yeah. So,
Which has got to be, like, on the one hand, rewarding, because you're like, oh my god. Like, you could have never seen them again, and there they are. But then also, they're there.
What do you do?
Well,
first of all, I want to...
How do you get them back?
Full credit to Steve's wife, Kelly, because she's the one who found the listing.
Superhero.
And sent it to Steve. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that she was still looking all this time. She was so great.
Yeah.
He's like, no, she goes on that site all the time to... Like,
for
she loves it for estate sales.
Sure.
And she's like, hey, Steve, maybe you'll be interested in this comic sale. And Steve is the one who's like, those are probably pads.
Wow.
So Steve, like,
Hero
Kelly
family.
Gets the credit for finding it.
Hero family.
Steve gets the credit for
understanding
not
the
only sending it to me,
significance.
but making, like, double checking, say, did you look at those photos?
That's great.
Because there's some books in there, he's like, I don't know, would he have had the full Black Cross series from Dark Horse? The answer is yes. Yes, I would have.
Yeah.
It was Chris
Warner.
Chris Warner, yeah.
Well, I think the Flash of Two Worlds one. I think I saw a photo of that. And I was like, I don't know about Flash of Two Worlds.
So there's a couple of books that I'm like, I don't remember having these, but after I sent the link to George is like, yeah, that was ours.
That's just how long it's been since they were probably singing boxes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I immediately call the detective who is on my case. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds weird phrasing it that way, but the case
responsible
detective.
for your case.
Yeah.
Yes.
He gave me a cell phone. I call his cell phone. It rings endlessly. No answer. No voicemail. It just keeps ringing.
Great.
Fine. I go to the police report, and it has if you have more information, call this number. Mm-hmm. So I call this number.
Right.
And I get somebody, and then I explain the situation. And they immediately say, I left out this part. So it's an estate sale somewhere in Skokie Friday morning at 10 a.m.
The whole thing is the sketchiest thing, because they put the kind of instructions on the estate sale. This wasn't just like, go to whatever address on whatever day at whatever time. It was...
No, at 9 p.m. Thursday night.
Right.
we'll release the address.
Like, they said, okay, the days that this is going to happen
the days and the time. Yeah.
Were Friday and Saturday.
Like 10 to 2, and Saturday,
right. But they wouldn't tell you where it was going to happen. You had to...
wait until 9 o'clock, they'd post the address, then you'd have to go to that address that night, sign up on a sign-up sheet that's on the outside of the building, take a photo of that to verify your signature in the morning, and then come back and wait in line, and you'll be called in the order your name is on the sign-up sheet. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to get a hold of the police, but I also think, like, I kind of need to be on that list just in case.
Right.
But I'll worry about that later. So I call the police and I explain everything, and the guy that I'm talking to basically says, it's out of our jurisdiction. It's a Skokie crime now. You know, you'll have to talk to them. My guess is they'll go in and they'll impound everything, and you won't get your books back right away, but they'll be held for evidence. But, you know, at least they're not going to be for sale, but, you know, that's a Skokie thing. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Mm-hmm. Hang up, call Skokie.
Right.
Get a very helpful officer at the desk, and I explain the whole situation, and she's like, okay, well, first of all, it is not a Skokie jurisdiction thing. The theft occurred in Chicago. It's a Chicago case. Uh-huh. If there's stolen property, yes, that's a Skokie thing, but that's not, like, that's the minor part of it.
Yes.
The big part is that fact that it was stolen.
There was a robbery.
And she's like, look, why don't you...
Or burglary? I never know what the difference is. Anyway.
Why don't you come here tomorrow morning, tell it to whoever's at the desk, just explain what's happening to them, and then we'll go from there. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Hang up. Then I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel like that. Doesn't feel like that's enough. And I'm like, I should be on that list, but I don't want to go because in my head, the people selling these books are the people that stole them.
Right. I mean, reasonable assumption, yeah.
And reasonable assumption is they saw these books in my storage unit with me in the storage unit.
When you were working on those shelves, yeah.
If I show up and they have a camera somewhere or they see me...
Yeah. What if they bolt? What if the books are gone
I don't want to
forever?
rumble the whole thing.
Right. Rumble, that's good.
Thanks. So I'm like, I need someone to go out there. I'm like, my very good friend and huge friend of the store, JVO, lives in Skokie.
Oh, nice.
So I text him and say, hey, man, do you got a minute to talk? He's like, yeah, sure. So I call him and I say, here's the thing. He's like, I'm on it. I will go there. I will sign up. Don't even worry about it. I'm like, great. I'll talk to you later. So 9 o'clock comes and I refresh the thing and it says, the address will be up there momentarily. And before I can refresh it again, James texts back. He's like, I have the address. I'm on my way. So he and his son went. Not only did they sign up on the list, mm-hmm. they did recon around the whole thing and sent me a bunch of photos.
Whoa.
And one of the photos is this big white van.
Oh!
And a white van is what was seen taking all the comics away from the storage facility.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is the thing. So I call Chicago police again. Mm-hmm. And I get a woman. I'm like, hey, here's the deal. My books are definitely there. I can prove it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, nope, we don't have the manpower.
Nope.
It's a Skokie thing. Yeah. Sorry. Meanwhile, James texts back. He's like, look, with everything we have, let's go to the Skokie police right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
So I print out all the photos I have, the listings,
sure. all your evidence.
Yeah. I get there. James and his son had already teed up the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
So I get in and I'm talking to two different officers of different levels, whatever.
Sure. Seniority?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Go through the whole thing and they're like, look, neither of us work tomorrow morning, but we're going to leave a detailed report and you're going to come back here at 8 o'clock and then we're going to come up with a plan for you. And we don't have the authority to kick in a door or go in and demand they stop selling everything, but our goal is to get to these people before
anything gets sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, we can't, we don't know for a fact that's your property in there, and we can't just go in saying it's in there.
They're just trying to get your brain to work down from the idea of there's going to be some Skokie SWAT team.
Right. I mean, but I wasn't thinking that anyway.
No, but I think to them that's what people would think. Is here's my stolen goods and we know where they are, and a helicopter's going to drop a dude down through a skylight, and some battering ram's going to take down a door. It's let's That's not going to happen. None of that's going to happen. But
okay, I tried to do it in order. So, like, okay, and this is like 11:30 last night. Like, okay, I'll come back at 8 in the morning.
Right.
And James is like, we'll come back. We'll be here.
Aw.
And my buddy Chris Smits, guitarist from the band Die Warsaw, had insisted on coming with me in the morning anyway.
Nice.
And then as I'm driving home, because the plan was to leave at 8:30 and get there at 9.
Right.
And so like the cops like last, like, no, get here at 8.
Yeah.
So I'm driving home. I call Chris. I'm like, hey man, we're leaving an hour earlier. He's like, let's leave at 7. I go, 7:30 is fine. Like, no, we should leave at 7. I'm like, no, it's 7:30. But he was out
Sure.
having a good time when I called. So he forgot that phone call entirely. But before he went to bed, he checked the text messages and said, oh, 8:30, okay. So when I get to his house at 7:25, like, I'm here. He's like, you said 8:30. Like, do you not remember the phone call? I do not.
Does not.
Anyway, so we get there at 8. James and his son get there at 8. We go in. I talk to the guy at the desk. He pulls up the report. He's like, all right, give it a minute. Some officers will come out to talk to you.
Right.
And then we're waiting for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I'm like, man, I don't want to be a dick, but the clock is ticking.
Yeah,
like,
there's literally a ticking clock here.
There's like, this is not gonna. I don't want to go up and say, hey man, like, did you forget about us or whatever? Because we're standing right by the front desk.
Right.
And no other crimes have come in. They can all be reported though, like no one else has come in.
Right.
Anyway, then before you know it, an officer comes up and he's like, all right, so the place that the books were at was formerly like a family diner.
Okay.
But now it's a pawn shop.
Okay.
And they're like, we know the owner of the pawn shop. He's a good guy. He does everything clean and on the books.
Right.
He calls us when he needs help. He's helped us with cases before.
Sure.
So a detective is going to talk to him, tell him the situation, and then, we're like, let's all, like, we're going to let the detective talk to him, then we're all going to go, let's just go there now.
Sure.
So we go there, all of us, like, big police car SUV, James, his son, me, and Chris. So we're parked on the opposite side of the building from like the main entrance.
Right.
We're watching people get in line. Yeah. So they're like, look, the detective talked to the guy. He's on his way in. He'll be around 9:30. So we're just sitting and waiting. Meanwhile, right next door, somebody starts like a giant grinder, and they're grinding up concrete. And it's just this horrible noise. And Chris goes, they're throwing all your books in a chipper. Like, they're destroying the evidence.
Yes, get out of here.
So eventually a cop comes out. He's like, hey, why don't you come inside? The owner of the pawn shop bought all of my books from a flea market outside of Allstate. Every Sunday they do flea markets in the parking lot. Yeah, he didn't buy them there. He was there looking for a Nintendo for his kid.
Okay.
But because he's a pawn guy, he goes to each booth and goes, hey, do you have any other collectible stuff or anything else? Like, do you have any full collection things you want to get rid of? And one person's like, yeah, I got all these comic books I want to get rid of. He's like, great, I'm interested.
Yeah.
So he went to this person's house. They had all of my comics. This guy bought...
Did he buy a Transformer?
No. I'm sorry, Dal, there's no...
There's not an end to this story where Transformer Select Black Zarek shows up?
Nor did I ever ask about a Captain America shield or...
Sure.
None of that stuff was on my mind.
I know.
Way to derail the story with your own... with a thing you didn't even want.
I assume that was the PS.
That's Jimmy Hayes. So he bought 50 boxes from this guy for $20,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then he brought them all back to his store. Since he doesn't know anything about comics, hired a guy to come in and go through them. Because you saw in the
oh, there was like actual notes and stuff
notes
people were leaving about like this collection and this first appearance.
For not quite 2 weeks, some dude's been working on this to get this sale ready, and they had people from, well, like people are like, I drove in here from Kentucky for this.
Sure.
They're like, no, you drove in for Fan Expo and also are going to this.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there are people who, I clearly look at these estate sale things and they're like,
sure.
I want to get, they're probably for their store.
But
like those, I would assume minimum percentage, 30% of people in line there were people from stores.
Sure, probably. Like we had Plan B, Plan C.
Right.
I'm not going to go into them. Some of
Sure.
them are stupid, but things we were going to do if the police weren't going to help.
Of course.
But so this guy, this pawn shop guy, he goes, look, I do everything above board on the books. I don't buy stolen merchandise. I don't deal with crooks. I have receipts for everything I buy. These are your books. You can take them.
Oh, man. Wow.
He spent $20,000 plus
time
and labor and all this stuff, and he's just give me the books back.
Sure. And
now,
and there's a line of people outside that will give him
yeah, he
multiples
literally
of
had
his
somebody
investment.
say, I'll buy the whole lot.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't do that. So anyway, I don't have the books
Right.
because I was unprepared to take 50 long boxes home today.
You didn't think they were going to immediately go like, here are your stolen items.
Yeah.
You thought reasonably, like the other detective had suggested, that this was going to be impounded for a while and eventually would work its way through the legal system and you would get your books back.
So I have to rent a van and go out there on Monday to load up everything and bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but he outright said that guy still has, 20-something other boxes.
Yeah.
And had recently said, hey, do you want to buy these too? So the police have all that information.
Yes.
And I don't know, this is the point where I'm like, should I not be talking about this stuff on this podcast? But what are the chances of the people involved listening to this?
Yeah, it seems unlikely.
But, I mean, they have their name and number and the address where they got them from.
Sure. I hope they move quickly.
Well, to be fair, the guy from the pawn shop had even said, he's like, yeah, he bought them on Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So this was 1 week after they were stolen.
Well, apparently the group that stole them wasn't even looking to unload them. Like, they didn't bring them to the flea market.
Right, yeah.
This guy happened to ask and went, oh, by the way. Like, they didn't know how they were going to move them.
So he's like, yeah, I got it. I bought them a week after they were stolen, but they could have been moved 3 times from as far as we know. He's like, all we know is who I got them from.
Sure. But you got to assume that whoever that guy talked to at the flea market, probably very close to, if not the person who did it. Like,
well, we all assumed that this guy was the guy,
Sure.
And we could not have been more wrong about. And this guy, today was his kid's birthday.
Yeah, I was looking at this estate sale thing, and I'm like, what a colossal scam! Like, this is all just stolen goods and
Do you
stuff.
know how much
and
I hate seeing orders pop in while we're doing this? I'm like,
you do hate it.
I could have just done this earlier.
But the fact that this was actually a good guy who was using this site the correct way in a way that was going to be
a way to have a list of everybody who came by and keep all that information.
Man.
And he's like, you don't understand how much effort was put into this. I go, you know what? I do.
I absolutely
This is my job.
Jesus.
I'm the one. And he's like, I brought all these in by myself. I'm like, I put all these on this shelf in this picture, and then I took them all down and moved them on these shelves all by myself.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, I'm sorry about this story because it clearly means that you now, unfortunately, unexpectedly, have a summer ahead of you of needing to inventory your comics and bag and board them and put them in new boxes.
Do you have any idea how much work is ahead of me and you the next 2 weeks?
No.
A lot.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it's all the worst kind of work.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for both of us.
So
then.
I don't have the books back yet. Also, I don't know what boxes I don't have.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the Amazing Spider-Mans, the Captain Americas.
Oof.
Looks like those aren't there.
Oof.
But also, it could just be the way they were put in the box, because I don't think this guy... I think he just said, I can afford 50 of them or whatever.
Yeah, and on top of that, it seems like stuff was moved around because somebody was going through these boxes to get an inventory
but more than that,
group things together.
He hired someone else to do it, so he doesn't know what he was getting for sale.
Right.
And he outright said, he's like, look, I admit I was hoping I'd find something worth, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Of course. Here. And honestly, I mean, hundreds of thousands probably not, but there's very valuable books in there. Even if it's just 50 out of 70 boxes, there's valuable stuff in almost every one of those boxes.
50 out of 79 boxes.
Sorry.
So it's 2/3 of the collection back.
That's good.
Or it will be. I cannot thank Kelly, Steve, James, his son, and Chris enough for all their help this week.
Yeah, good work, everybody.
Even Chris Mitz was there for moral support, and if we needed it, a knuckle buster.
I'm glad it didn't come to that.
Yeah. I will have books back. I already have a new storage facility which has much better security.
Uh-huh.
It's got carpeted floors.
Ooh.
It's got air conditioning.
How decadent.
There's a $3 a month atmosphere fee. That's so there's AC.
Oh, okay.
It's very bright.
I thought breathable atmosphere. Like, I'd definitely pay $3
sure.
to breathe. Sure, yeah.
You walk into the front office, and the first thing you see is this wall of crystal clear cameras that show everything in the facility.
Well scouted.
The locks are not the little slide clicky locks. You don't buy a padlock or a circle lock or a combination lock. I'm not telling you. You know what you did.
It's true. I thought I could trick you into it. I'm like, he's in this story. Let's let it keep going. Oh, no, he caught me.
I was trying to explain the lock to Dal earlier, and he was way more interested in his Huel dinner.
I was unpacking Huel. I bought...
No more Huel talk.
Okay.
Yeah, so, like, already I'm like, man, this place is clean. It's well lit. You can't break into these things.
Closer to the store or farther away to the store?
Considerably closer to the store.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying names because I want nobody
of course,
tracking it down.
I did not follow up with a question of, like, where is it in relation to the store?
But again, I mean, I'm more than happy to recommend it to
the
people
brand name
who ask. Yeah. Well, I mean, that location specifically.
Oh, okay.
A woman named Samantha helped me out. We are on the 3rd floor, but we're right around the corner from the elevator.
Great.
Like, it's right there. You pay extra to be closer to the elevator?
Fine.
I will pay extra to be closer to the elevator.
Especially knowing you've got to move 50 plus boxes.
The funniest part was, she's like, "Hey, we have 2 available of the size you want. You know, it's 2nd floor or 3rd floor?" I go, "What's the difference?" She's like, "Well, 3rd floor is windows." I'm like, "Do not care.
Yeah, what?
Give me the one close to the elevator." She's like, "Oh well,
Who in a storage space has ever been like, I wish there was a better view?"
No, here you go. She's like, sometimes people are in their storage lockers for so long they don't realize the passage of time, and they'll come out and be like, "Oh, it's dark now."
I guess.
That was her exact analogy.
That's just weird.
Yeah.
Don't be in there that long, I guess.
I've been
or
in there
wear a
that long?
watch and a phone. I don't know.
That's true. Even though I've been there long, I'm always aware of the time.
Yeah.
Well, for when I needed to. So, yeah, that is...
You're right, that was not a story worth telling. We should have ended before.
We should have, yeah.
Damn
so, screw it, well, and now. Again, thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.